Hey, what's up, everybody? John Schumacher here with New Wave Healthcare, where health professionals come to learn business and learn marketing. As always, go over to newwavehealthcare.com. Check us out there for all the archived interviews, all the juicy tidbits to help you expand your health business. Today, my guest is Dr. Jerry Kennedy of drjerrykennedy.com. And Dr. Kennedy is a chiropractor. He's had a successful practice for 9 years. Is going to be coming on the show here today to help us a little bit with how do we engage our existing clientele? How do we get the people that are already our clients to start talking about us, start engaging with us, and become not just clients but raving fans who can't help but talk about you and share what you're doing with others. So I think we miss that piece a lot. That it's our current clientele rather that is our most important people that we need to be sharing with and marketing to. So, Dr. Kennedy, thanks so much for coming on the show and talking to us about this topic. I think it'll be a lot of value for all of everybody listening to the show today. So, let's just start out. Just tell us a little bit about your personal background, and then we'll jump into our topic today a little further.
Thanks, John, for having me. By the way, I was in. Well, as far as how I got into healthcare, basically I was in pain. I was in pain. My body was hurting all the time, and I ended up going to the chiropractor reluctantly. Decided to be a chiropractor after I was helped, and got into practice. Got out of school, started my own practice, and practiced for 9 years. And just last year, I actually closed down my practice because I wanted to get into teaching. I wanted to get into writing and speaking, doing some podcasting, things like that. And I kind of found that that's where my passion was at, is actually educating people and teaching them more about health and how their body works instead of the hands-on treatment part of things. But we gave it a go for 9 years, and now we're kind of off to the next journey, the next thing.
Right. Nice. Well, that's awesome. You're finding your passions, and I just from knowing you, you're just a natural teacher and speaker. So I think those mediums are going to be perfect for you to share your message and touch a lot more people than even you could, as a practice owner. So
I have awesome. The gift of gab. So
well, we'll see that today. I'm sure, man. I'm sure we'll see a little bit of that today for sure. So. So what about this thing? Like you did have a practice for 9 years. And you were talking to me about some really neat things you used to do to kind of keep your clients engaged, keep them talking about you, coming back, all those things. You want to touch on some of that for us?
Yeah. One of the things I think that is really it's really easy to do in practice is that, especially from a chiropractic standpoint, we're always marketing, and you're constantly like priming the pump, and it's easy to kind of forget the people that you have. Mm-hmm. I always kind of I think of it like when you're a problem solver and you're kind of putting out fires. The next person that has a problem comes along and you put out that fire, and then the next fire comes along and you put out that fire, and you kind of forget about the people that you have currently kind of in your hand and start looking for the ones that you don't have yet. And what we don't realize is like it's in the beginning, maybe that makes a lot of sense because you make more, when you're trying to run a business, you make more money off of the people coming in for more care initially. But once you've been in practice for 3, 4, 5 years, you start looking back and realize like, wow, there's a lot of people that have come in here that aren't coming in anymore. Mm-hmm. And the first time or first or second, third time you run across an old patient in the store and they start telling you about all these problems they've been having. And then you're kind of wondering, like, why didn't you come see me? Like, why? Like, if you're having a flare-up, you're having a problem, why didn't you come see me? And then the harsh reality is they say, I forgot about you. Like, that's one of those things you're like, oh, and you kind of realize that you dropped the ball on nurturing that relationship. It's like, you don't forget about family. You don't forget about the things in your life that were impacting your life, that were major things. And it's like you have people that you were invited into their life in a very intimate way to be able to help them with a pain situation or a situation where they're unhealthy or whatever, and you're going to help them. This is such an intimate thing, and it's such a great opportunity to have a long-term relationship with this person, and you drop the ball in it, and then you find out they forgot all about you. And so having something staying in contact with people and nurturing that relationship in a way that's mutually beneficial, which is probably the key to it, is really, really key. Otherwise, you're just in a situation where you're constantly have to get that 10, 15, 20, 30. I mean, some practices, I have friends of mine that would get 40 and 50 plus new patients a month, and they had to do that or their practice would die. And that's a lot of stress. I mean, it's a lot of stress.
Right. Yeah, it's sort of that out of sight, out of mind thing, or when you're not engaging your clients currently, like you say, time goes by, you're not top of mind anymore, and all of a sudden they just forget about you, forget about the relationship with you and everything. So I think that's pretty important for us all as health practitioners to stay top of mind of our current people and keep engaging with them and helping them, giving them value and content along the way. How did you do that in your practice? How did you do that? How did you keep in touch with those people in order to help keep them coming back?
You have to. I think one thing that's important to think about is this. Think about from a marketing standpoint, especially when you're out in the community. So that could be public speaking. That could be out at like a health fair. It could be like a company, a corporate thing. It could be a number of things that you could actually be going out into the community. As a general rule, we make the mistake of only looking for people who are hot right there, ready to make a decision. We are looking for that new patient that's going to be in our office Monday, and we disregard everybody else. And so the crazy thing is, especially from a physical ailment standpoint, so back pain, neck pain, muscle aches and pains, things of that nature, chiropractic, physical therapy, whether it's massage therapy, like anything like that, 80% of people or more are going to have a problem at some point in their life that they're going to need your help or benefit from your help. So, you're out there looking at people that are hot, like they're right there at that time, but you're kind of missing that opportunity also before they're a patient to build a relationship with someone that's going to eventually need you. And the same thing is true with existing patients. Even if you fix their problem, even if you get them well, the odds of someone going through the course of their life and not needing you again is slim to none. So maintaining that relationship when they're not hot, when they're not flared up and ready to go is really, really important. And one of the ways that we did that I really, really liked over the years was we would do newsletters. And this is not revolutionary. Like tons and tons of people do newsletters. You can either do them online through like email, through like services like Aweber or MailChimp, something like that. Or you can do them offline, which is basically be as simple as stuffing something in an envelope and sending it out to a patient. The mistakes that people make when they do this basically just make it so it's very ineffective. And so so what you end up doing is you have a bunch of practices and a bunch of people that don't understand how to do it correctly, and then they find themselves in a situation where they just stop doing it because they decide that it doesn't work anymore. And that's just not true. They're just not doing it right.
Right. So your primary method of keeping in touch and sort of dripping on your current clientele was to use newsletters that you would send out via email to your people?
We would do email and we would do written. And I'm an internet guy. Like I prefer doing email. I prefer doing podcasts. I prefer doing YouTube videos. Like I prefer that. I prefer putting everything on my website, and I try to run everything through my website. Even when I was in practice, I tried to run everything through my website. But the reality is not everybody's that way, which is, it's bizarre to me because it's like, okay, it's 2014. Like, why in the world do you not have an email address, or why in the world do you not like it's just it's not that simple. It's easy it's almost like we were sending mail to everybody years ago, and then we discovered email, and so then everybody started sending email, and now it's special to get something in the mail. That's actually for you and to you. So as much as I actually enjoy all the online stuff, the video and audio stuff, there's something about writing something or sending something like a hard copy of something in the mail to someone. And I know that people are going to think, the El Cheapo people out there are going to just be like, oh, well, I have to pay 40 cents for a stamp, and I got to pay for an envelope, and I got to pay for printing, I got to pay for... Basically what we figured out is it came out to about $1 to $1.20 to do a newsletter, to a person per person, which meant over the course of the year, you were looking at about $15 per person. Now, I know that my average case was about $1,500, like that I was going to get from the average like new patient that came in my door. So that's about where I ran, is about $1,500. So if you think about that, like how many newsletters do you have to send out where it's not worth it to get that $1,500 person? You know, it's like if you could bump up, you know, 1 or 2 referrals a month, or you can get that a person to come back 1 or 2 extra times where they would have forgotten about you or whatever, it's a very cost-effective thing to do. I think the bigger problem is it can be time-consuming, and so having people, whether it's staff or whether it's that high school kid at the, you know, whatever, like stuffing envelopes for you, like it's important to have like your team set up so that you actually have a system set up that you're doing it right. But the newsletters themselves. Well, I'll go over a few rules. Is there's principles for kind of like what I consider like raving. If you want your patients to be raving fans, there's 3 things that I think are just general rules that should be overtones for your practice. Number 1 is to be genuine. We listen to podcasts, we listen to advice, maybe we listen to counseling, maybe it's management companies, maybe it's something you learned in school, whatever, and you try to be somebody else, and you're doing your patients, and you're doing, frankly, the world, I don't want to get too fluffy, but you're doing the world a disservice by being something other than yourself. It's the only thing that you can do great that nobody else can do is be yourself. And so that could mean that, like, if you're a dork, be a dork. You know, if you're cool, be cool. You know, if you're a guy that wears a suit and tie to work, wear a suit and tie to work. If you wear, you know, flip-flops and tennis shoes or whatever, just I think it's important to be yourself, because number 1, a lot of people aren't genuine.
Yeah.
Number 2 is that if you're not being genuine, you're going to be attracting a bunch of people into your life who are attracted to the person that you don't even like.
Yeah.
And so no matter what you're doing, and I say this because when you're putting out newsletters, there's a little bit of that is kind of sharing yourself, because you're putting out information that you think your people are going to like and be interested in and kind of whatever. So you're kind of the filter of that information. Even if you're not writing it yourself, you're determining what they want to hear. So even if you paid someone to do your newsletter for you, you still are picking a newsletter of someone that has a writing style or the type of information that you're determining that you yourself would like to read and that they are interested in reading as well. So being genuine, not trying to say like, oh, I'm going to put that out, I'm not interested in this, but they're going to be interested in it because it's going to get me people. Or I don't really feel comfortable saying this or doing this, but I'm just going to do it anyway because it's going to get me people. You're going about it the wrong way. So in all of practice, 1, being genuine is important. Number 2, helping first, and we talked about this kind of off the air, is that as business owners, and this is not exclusive to the healthcare profession, but as business owners, we have a tendency to want to, you're thinking about building the business, instead of understanding the earning permission to ask for referrals and earning permission to build that relationship. It's almost like you can meet the greatest girl in the world. She's the most amazing person, the girl of your dreams. Like, she's like absolute 1000% marriage material, brag about, perfect girl, whatever. And on your first date, you go to her house and she opens the door and all of a sudden wedding bells chime and she walks down the stairs in a dress. You're out of there. and it's not because she's not the perfect girl. It's because it's inappropriate timing.
Yeah.
And in practice, when you think about your marketing, think about how inappropriate your timing is. Like, you're building a relationship with this person. So number 1 is to be genuine, but number 2 is to be helpful first. And if you don't know what that person needs or wants, ask them. Because I used to ask patients all the time on their very first visit, like one of the last things I'd ask them before I'd start doing their exam is, what would you like to get out of coming into my office? Sure. You know, what do you want out of this? Like, what is the best case scenario? Slam dunk, this is an amazing experience. High five, I got everything I wanted. What do you want? And they'll tell you. And what's funny is a lot of times what you think they want is not what they want. Right. You may think they want to be well, and they don't. They just want to be able to get out of bed without feeling like they're going to die. you may think that they want whatever, and the only thing they want to do is be able to garden. It's like so don't assume, just say, like, be genuine, but ask them, like, what do you want? And make a note of it. I mean, it's like, and discuss that with them, because that's their primary need. That's their primary want. Like, bring that to their attention about, like, this is what we're here for. This is what we're trying to do. And if they know that that's what they want, that's what they need, you're connecting to them on that personal level. So, one, be genuine. Two, be helpful first. And lastly, show gratitude. Gratitude is like a huge thing. When you get to that point where you can ask for referral, or you get to that point where someone does refer. I mean, some people refer, they just come in your door, and they just come in your door referring. Like, they're telling their friends and family, they're like, hey, I like his carpet. They're just going crazy and referring like crazy. That's great, but most people aren't that way. But even those people like to be thanked.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be big. You don't have to buy people. It doesn't have to be Oprah, where it's like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. It's not like that. It's just, sometimes it's a simple thank you. Sometimes it's a public thank you. I did that in newsletters before. Now, with HIPAA and stuff like that, you couldn't use someone's full name, but they know who they are, and you could use someone's first name, or first name and last initial, or something like that, and you could say, thank you for your referral. And we used to put lists of, like, a thank you list in our newsletter. We would sometimes send a little Starbucks gift card. It's like $5. I know that patient's going to be worth $1,500 to me. Sending them a $5 thank you to, say, Starbucks, and a little note that says, hey, really appreciate you trusting us enough to tell other people about us. Here's a coffee on us. And people they're like, oh my gosh, that's the greatest thing ever.
Right.
The worst thing you could do is have someone that they do something for you like that, and even if it's referring a family member, and not say thank you. And so finding ways to acknowledge people, whether that's in private, pulling them aside and say, I really appreciate you, whether that's in public, which sometimes could be in a newsletter, or sometimes in front of everyone. I mean, if I walked a patient up to the front of the office and there was other people there and they were a really great patient, I would tell everyone there, like, how great of a patient this was and how amazing they were, because people like to tell their story as well. They like acknowledgement. So I think in general, when you're doing your marketing, you have to understand that those things are important first. Like, understand the foundation for what you're doing, because people aren't going to want, like, you're not going to build raving fans. You're not going to build a relationship until they know you care.
Right.
And that's the foundation for it. So you have to kind of take your business mind a little bit and set it aside and say, I'm just going to be kind. It's a golden rule thing. You're treating people the way you'd want to be treated, or treating people the way you'd want your family to be treated. And that's like the foundation for a long-term relationship. Because I used to always say, if you want to know you're doing exactly what you should be doing, you're doing exactly what you would do for your mother who came into your office who wasn't paying you. Not a little, not more, not less. You're not doing more just to get paid. You're not doing less just to cut time. You're doing exactly what you would do for your mother or your sister or the person in your life that you care about the most. That's the amount of care that you would give them, and that's how you should kind of treat every person. That's your foundation. Right. That's a big part of having a long-term relationship with your patients, is actually treating them like a human being, the way that you want to be treated. Like, that's a jumping off point. Then when you start doing the other stuff, that's just systems. Those are just systems that go along with the fact that they like you already. Right. Because people want to do business with people they like. And so, exactly, doing those things first is a jumping off point for everything else.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's great points there, and not just in marketing a health practice, but living life too, is just being you, giving a lot, giving on the front end, caring about your clients, and because that's so rare. I mean, it's really rare, and a lot of people are just treated as numbers or treated as dollar signs. But if you actually care and show that you care, wow, they're going to be like amazed by you. They're going to want to come and just visit you, to hang out with you and talk to you and see you and be with you, and whatever your clinical skills may be, they're still going to like you, trust you, and want to share with you as a human being. So I think those are just some golden nuggets there as far as how to communicate with your patients.
Well,
So
you know what the good news is? The good news is there's so many shysters in the healthcare profession and within business in general. The bar has been set so low that you don't have to be exceptional as far as like some sort of like monk or some sort of like Dalai Lama of kindness. It's like just show a basic level of gratitude and kindness to your patients. Don't treat them like me, doctor, you patient. That's like people don't like to be talked down to, and speaking to them in a way that they understand and speaking to them in the way that, like I said, I think one of just a simple rule of thumb is like, how would you speak to the person that you care about the most? Like maybe it's your grandmother who's that person is kind of frail and weak, and yeah, maybe they're hard of hearing and maybe they take up a little extra of your time, but if that was your grandmother, how would you want her to be treated? And I think taking those things into consideration is like that's a starting point.
Right.
And then because if you're a jerk, like if you're a jerk, like it doesn't matter how good your systems are to like try to get people to refer and get people to do these other things. Like if you're a jerk, you're a jerk. Like people just don't like you.
Right.
And I kind of I would always tell people, always be yourself unless you suck, and then be someone else.
Very good. That's a good way to end that on. That's some good context right there. I like that. That's a good way to kind of frame the context of what you should be putting. But as far as the systems that you're speaking about, I mean, can you give a couple examples? Like, so we're talking newsletters here, which you feel is your best way of connecting with people. Can you give a couple, like maybe 2 examples of some content that you would put inside that newsletter, and then talk a little bit about the system you're talking about? I mean, how you would set it up.
This is I'll go through offline really quick, because offline newsletters are really, some of the principles apply, but offline is actually easier than online from a content standpoint. Or online's easier than offline. I'm sorry. And so we'll go over online real quick. Number one, for all of your newsletters, one of the things that's really, really important is consistency. It's absolutely important. Now, for a written newsletter, once a month is plenty. Like that's perfectly fine. That's a good frequency, and I would suggest once a month. I would not suggest doing less than that, because it becomes sporadic and people just don't expect it anymore. Think about digest, like whether it's a Sports Illustrated or Newsweek or whatever, they're consistent. Like whether it's a TV show, radio show, whatever, it's consistent. You know when it's coming, you know what it is. And so, if you think about those times during the year where they have like the off times for your favorite TV show or kind of whatever, you go on and it's like, oh, your show's not on, or oh, it's not a new episode, and you're kind of like, and if it's a show you don't even like that much, by the time it comes back on, you're like, you've moved on to something else. And people are the same way. So consistency is really important. Offline, once a month is a good frequency. Online, once a week. People that do online newsletters once a month, you might as well not do it. Like you seriously might as well not do it. And people that are doing newsletters, like written newsletters once a quarter, you might as well not do it. And so consistency is going to be important. And for online, like once a week is that's really minimum, like once a week. Now, the mistake people make online is they try to make fancy newsletters. Don't try to make a fancy newsletter with like all kinds of pictures and all kinds of graphics and like columns, and where it actually looks like I'm sure you've seen them, like these, like you got these MailChimp templates that are like, put this picture here and you got 2-3 columns and 4 columns along the bottom, and it's like, and like 3 hours later you put a newsletter together. And so the simplest way to do a newsletter, you could do it literally in like 10 minutes. And all you're doing, think of it like an email. You're sending an email to your people. That's it. It's text only. Don't put any pictures in it. A little personal comment like, hey, hope everybody's having a great week. We had a fun week over Christmas, blah, 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 whatever. Like something quick and personal. Here's a couple things I want to share with you. That's where you share teaser information with links, because this is online. So like you're going to send them to either your website, maybe your Facebook page, maybe it's your blog, your website, whatever. But your teaser information, don't put the entire article on there. That's stupid. No one's going to read it. And if they do read it, as soon as they delete the email, it's over with. Put it online somewhere where it can get organic traffic later. Put a little teaser Like, hey, here's a great article I saw with like 10 tips how to lose weight before Christmas, whatever, and a link. Oh, here's a article I wrote about the best way to stretch your back so that you don't hurt in the morning or whatever. And so basically the formula is quick little personal note, uh, link, signature, like kind of like, hey guys, talk to you later, whatever. After the signature, if you want to make an offer, a suggestion or promotion or something like that, that's where you do it. So like PS, hey, if you happen to have a friend or family member that wants to that needs our help, here's a coupon. Here's a thing, here's a whatever. So it's personal comment, link, signature, and then PS. Hey, if you if you check out this or look at this, or you can come in. We're doing a fundraiser this month. Whatever. Here's a coupon for $5 off. Whatever. Right. And if you do that, it literally will take you 10 minutes. As far as content online, Google has something called Google Alerts. And so if you put in their keywords, so if your interest, like if your niche is like, if you're a dentist, your niche could be, dental stuff. You could put in keywords for dental stuff, and it'll give you once a week, once a day, once a week, whatever. It'll give you new articles and information about that particular keyword. So if you see an article you really like, you could just link to it. There you go. So finding content for Facebook pages, for new online newsletters, things like that is super easy because you could just use Google Alerts for your niche or something you're interested in. The other thing you could do is just go on your Facebook page and see what people are talking about, and link to that, because then the benefit of that is you already get to see what's viral, like what's going around, and if it's something that's at all applicable. And sometimes it doesn't have to be applicable. I mean, you could be like, hey, this is a funny picture of a cat that I saw. I thought you needed a laugh. Laughter is a good medicine. Blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. We overthink that it has to be exactly tied in with what we're doing. So that's kind of the offline or the online formula. Offline, you kind of have to think about it the same way. And what my rules are this: think about what people share. So it's either emotional, good or bad. They're either like yay on board with it, or boo, I hate you, and I think you're the worst person ever, and whatever. So they share the stuff that they're either really for or really against. They share things that are helpful, so little quick tips and helpful things and nuggets and little secrets, things like that. They share funny stuff, and people share things that are shocking. It could be shocking, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he just made that half-court shot, or it could be, oh my gosh, that guy just got hit by a truck. But either way, it's like, it's shocking.
Yeah.
These are the things that people share because they're emotional. What we do as professionals is we try to have a newsletter that we're teaching people about our profession. It's like, oh, so here's another article about chiropractic. Here's an article about physical therapy. Here's an article about this. Here's an article about that. The problem is there's nothing in there that the person's actually interested in. That they're not interested in, whether they are a patient of you or not. Because that's the key. If you have a really good newsletter, whether it's online or offline, the people are going to share it whether they are a patient of yours or not. Right. Because it's worth sharing. Right. So sometimes going out of your way to include things that aren't necessarily directly related to your niche are important, because you have that PS. You get to ask permission to do something. And then with the newsletter, what we used to do with the offline newsletter, I actually looked for one. I couldn't find it because I moved everything out of my office. Now I can't find anything. We used to do a newsletter that was a written newsletter, 4 pages, but it was 4 pages folded. So it was one big page folded in half, and it was cover, 2 inside pages, and then the back sheet. So it was just one folded sheet. The reason we would do that is because the folded sheet was just content. It would be a story. It would be information about how to do something, or a quick tip, whatever. It did not have to be related to chiropractic, and oftentimes it wasn't. But it was some sort of health-related thing. I had an article a year ago. I took a challenge. It was called the Death Row Challenge, and it was this huge burger that was like impossible to eat, and I had to eat it in 20 minutes. I get a T-shirt, my picture on the wall, and I didn't eat it, and I ate it, and then I threw up, and I had this picture of me with this huge sandwich, and I wrote an article about it. Was like my 20 minutes on death row, because it was called the Death Row Challenge, and And at the end of it, I was kind of like, here's the moral of the story, was kind of like, you don't have to eat perfect every day,
Yep.
and you shouldn't, try to do whatever. And I just, couple funny things afterwards. But the point of it was, it had nothing to do with chiropractic. It was a funny story, and
Yeah, no, I
so
think it says it has a lot to do with being you again, just like you talked about earlier. Sharing that, making it human, for your followers is important.
think about it like a Reader's Digest standpoint, because this is the key takeaway. This is a key takeaway, whether it's written or online or offline, is one, you have to be consistent, and two, you have to create something that is worth reading, whether you're a patient or not.
Right.
Then you can use the newsletter as an opportunity to ask for referrals and to promote your business after you've accomplished those things.
Mm-hmm.
So in the email, it's a PS. Here's some information. Here's a coupon. Here's a whatever. In the written newsletter, the reason I like the one big page folded is because we can now take an insert and we can put it inside of that, and we could put a coupon in there. We could put a referral coupon. We could put a promotion like, hey, this month we're donating our new patient money to a needy family for Christmas, whatever that is. And they could take that insert out. That was often a different color. It'd be a white newsletter, but it would have like a yellow or a red or a green insert that was a different color, and that would be the promotional item. But I used the newsletter that they wanted to read. They enjoyed reading it. If they had it, was fun and entertaining. They would pass that along to their friends and family and just say, hey, you have to read this. This is funny. Or, hey, you have to read this. This is a really interesting article. And then the insert was how I got permission to ask. What people do, what chiropractors, physical therapists, what people do when they're promoting a lot of times is the only time they ever mail their patients is when they're sending them a coupon or when they're sending them about a promotion. And the only time they email them is when they're doing the same thing as well. And that's a mistake. Provide value, give them something worth reading and worth participating in. After you do that, you now have permission to say, hey, can you tell somebody about us and whatever, because you're doing it in the right way. It's doing things in the right order.
Yeah. Right. Exactly, man. Give first. We got to give first on the front end before we really ask for anything or get back. So I think you put it perfectly, and not just for marketing, but kind of a life lesson as well today on the show. So I appreciate you coming on, Dr. Kennedy, and sharing some knowledge on keeping in touch with your current clientele. And you painted a really nice context of giving, of being yourself, not being a hard pusher, hard marketer, but keeping in touch, keeping in their minds so that so that you are top of mind, but you're top of mind as a good person, as somebody they like, as somebody that's giving to them, that cares about them. And so when you're top of mind and people know you care about them, why, they're going to share with their friends, they're going to come back and see you because they like you. It's just pretty simple. So
email's great, because email you can keep in contact with them forever.
Yeah.
A written newsletter, you could stay in contact with them for 6 months or a year, however long you want.
Yeah. So go ahead and just share a little bit about where our viewers can find you, and then we'll say goodbye.
drjerrykennedy.com. I just told you right before the show started, the Dr. Jerry Kennedy show on iTunes just got released today, so I'm really excited about that. We had a podcast before. We're relaunching under the different names, self-branded. Gave my own name, so they gave me my own show, sort of thing. So if people want to go to drjerrykennedy.com/iTunes, that's where you'll get to the podcast. And obviously, anyone who wants to either subscribe or leave a review, I would like people to get contact or get on board with the podcast. That's really where you're going to get ongoing information and content on a regular basis from us. So either the website or the podcast, that's going to be where people are going to be able to get in hold of me. And it's just all my name. If you search Dr. Jerry Kennedy, you'll find me.
Yeah. Just Google you, huh?
Yep. I'll also send you. I'll find either the digital copy or the written copy of one of my newsletters, and I'll give it to you so you can actually see that and share that with people as well if they want to just see what that actually looks like laid out.
Perfect. Yeah, we can definitely link that up. And everybody, as everybody knows, on the New Wave Healthcare show, I always create an archive page. And for this talk, you can go to newwavehealthcare.com/Jerry Kennedy, and we'll have the link to that resource and everything else we talked about here. You can get in contact with Dr. Kennedy that way as well. I'll probably have that up probably by Wednesday. I'll have an archive page. You can go to newwavehealthcare.com/Jerry Kennedy for that. And yeah, so that was a great discussion. Hope you all enjoyed that. That was a lot of good information, not only for our practices, but kind of for our lives too. We got kind of into a kind of a philosophical discussion, which is good because I mean a lot of things, for people it occurs that way, and those are just huge tidbits as far as like how to act, the context of writing and engaging, and I thought that was really excellent. So thank you, Dr. Kennedy, for sharing that, and so our next show will be, let's see here, Monday the 3rd, February 3rd, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern. We're going to have another great discussion on the topics of business, marketing, and healthcare. So have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you next time.